if your Facebook ads account gets shut down and you can never advertise on Facebook again, you're going to find an opportunity over YouTube. You're going to find another opportunity that's probably far better. That's kind of like the universe saying, well, maybe you don't need that.
Woo! Hey, John Crestani here. Now, we're doing a special video today. I'm actually doing an interview with a very interesting entrepreneur who I've known for a number of years, J.R.Fisher. Now, J.R.Fisher is, he owns some internet websites that make millions of dollars a year. He's been very successful. He teaches about what he knows now. I mean, he's a really cool guy, really interesting, been through a lot in life, and I'm very excited to bring him to you so you can understand the mentality of what it takes to be successful. So, JR, thanks for being on. And what do you think of the statement, old dogs can't learn new tricks?
Thanks for having me on, first off, John. I really appreciate it. I love your stuff. We were just actually discussing this before we started this interview. But, what I hear all the time is that I'm too old to learn that. I didn't grow up in the technology era.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Okay, because if you're 60 and there's a 20-year-old, you grew up with them. Okay, they were alive for 20 years, and so were you. You were there at the same exact time. And whatever you do know, you learn. You can learn anything. There's nothing you can't learn. So I think that's kind of a cop-out or a reason not to do something.
So I noticed it took, I did a little looking on your LinkedIn too, and I noticed there were 10 years, in between, college and, where I saw you worked at Southern Automotive Group, and then another 10 years where you were working your job before you got into the online stuff and started your internet businesses. So can you tell me a little bit about that journey and how that all led to Survival Cave Foods? And yeah, what you were doing, and maybe did those experiences inform, things, or just tell me a little bit about those 20 years, not where you're at today.
Sure. I'll be happy to do that. And first off, I have people say, well, how did you ever, think of starting a survival food company? And the short answer is I didn't think of it at all. I just hated my boss and I wanted to do something other than what I was doing. I was actually managing new car dealerships at the time. I had 16 locations I managed.
This is at Southern.
We had 16 different franchises. And I didn't like somebody telling me what time I could go to lunch. I didn't like when somebody said, you're going to get 2 weeks to spend with your kids. And I was a single dad. I got my kids when they were 12 and 8. I raised them 100% by myself. They're grown now. And I wanted to take them on vacations and do things with them. And I didn't want to come home at 9 o'clock at night and have to go to bed and get up the next day and be there at 7:30 or 8 in the morning and somebody tell me what to do. And then I really didn't like this, guys. I didn't like that they limited my income. I wanted to make millions, and they like, well, that job doesn't pay that. It doesn't pay that. That's insanity. So what I did start doing was starting to market those dealerships online, and the people that were in charge of the marketing department didn't like that. They said, no, you can't do that. You stick to running the sales departments. We don't need you. We don't need you to do that. So it got me to thinking, well, maybe I could just sell something of my own online. Now, the thing I ran into, and some of you guys may run into, is I didn't have any time to do this. I didn't have any time. Because literally I would be at work at 7:30 or 8 in the morning. I'd get home at 8 or 9 at night. I'd get the kids in bed. I'd watch TV for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'd go to sleep and I'd start the next cycle again. I was working 6 to 7 days a week. I was also in the Virginia Beach Rescue Squad as a volunteer. I was an EMT. So I was doing that or whatever free time I had, 1 day off or whatever. And I was sitting there one night and I turned on the TV and I was getting ready to watch something. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm watching TV. I'm watching TV. Maybe there is some time. I know there's an hour and a half, 2 hours before I go to bed, but maybe that's enough time to do something. So I turned off the TV. I got on the computer and I tried to learn how to sell stuff online. And I started doing
What year was this?
This was, that's a great question, 2009.
Yep.
2009.
Yep.
And I started selling stuff on eBay, and all of a sudden, that hour and a half would turn into 2 hours, and I'd be up till midnight. Then I'd be up to 1 in the morning. I'd be up at 3 in the morning, and I'd still have to be at work at 7:30 or 8. And I would have people say, "Well, didn't you get tired?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got real tired, but that wasn't the point. The point was I was starting to figure out something." So that's actually how I got started, and that was with cell phone cases of all things.
2009, that was like nuclear winter for business in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody, don't start a business that's
Right. That would
so
be
tell me,
stupid.
I'm particularly interested. I mean, tell me a little bit about, in between 83 and the years in between, when you
Oh, sure.
graduated college, and I don't know, maybe what lessons did you learn in those years?
Okay.
Because it sounds like you had kids, you went through a divorce,
Oh, yeah.
all this other stuff, or I don't know what happened, but all this stuff happened. I mean, sounds like you were living in, or maybe you moved to California later, but tell me about those years, 80s, 90s,
Yeah, it's
2000s.
interesting because I guess because of the successes I've had, the college that I went to, Old Dominion University, has contacted me several times. The president's come out to California. I've had dinner with him,
Wow.
And matter of fact, this year, just about a month ago, they wrote an article on me, which we'll stick it up on the screen there, about my survival cave food business. And they asked me to be in the Monarch, their magazine they sent out to all the alumni,
Wow.
which I thought was really pretty cool. But what happened was, I actually was selling cars in 79, 80, like that. And I thought, well, I don't want to be a car salesman. What kind of life is that? That's not good. I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna get me a degree, because I hear that's the thing to do, get a
Uh-huh.
degree. So I went to Old Dominion, and I went year round. I was bartending at a Mexican restaurant, and I got a degree. The day you had to pick what major you were going to select, they had lines for marketing, they had lines for finance, they had lines for all these different lines. And the shortest line I could find, because I had to get to work, was finance. So I said, well, I'll get in that line because it's short and I can get to my shift. So that's how I ended up picking my major, was the short line.
Really?
Yeah, that was the short line. So what I didn't know, and I wasn't good at it, was math was a big thing to do with finance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just a little
I
bit.
didn't quite put that through my head, so I had to get into calculus, and I didn't know any of this because I was a terrible student in school. And so I went year round. My last semester, I took 21 credits. I got my degree in 3 years and 3 months. But that was not because I was industrious. It was because I didn't have enough money to pay for another semester. I just honestly did not. It was done. And I got out and I looked around, and the only jobs that were available were teaching, which I taught at a business college. I taught accounting, and I knew business law, so I taught business law. And then I bartended at night. And I was like, this is terrible. I don't like this. So I saw an ad one day for a finance manager at a car dealership. And I had no clue what that was or what that entailed. And I was like, well, that's not really selling cars. That's, finance manager. I'll be a manager. And I took that job, and it sucked me back into the car business for a good period of time. And I ended up, we moved out to California. I ended up running McCune Chrysler Jeep, which was the #1 dealership in California, #3 in the nation. So we did really well there. But I had this thing where I wanted to teach people stuff. So I'm trying to think what year that
Oh,
was.
and just FYI, it seems like your screen's shaking a little bit. I don't know if you're like hitting the
Oh, I'm
table
sorry.
or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, yeah.
I won't
Sorry,
do
go
that.
on.
We'll edit that. So I actually left the dealership I was at, and I went on the road, and I started teaching dealerships how to sell. And I got pretty darn good at that. And I did that for about 8 or 9 years. I traveled the entire United States. I did seminars all over the place, top dealerships in the country. And my wife and I decided we were going to split. And she didn't want to take care of the kids, so that was going to be my responsibility. And that was when they were 12 and 8 years old. And at the time, getting custody for a guy was really difficult. This is 2002-ish, I guess, something like that. And my attorney just said, hey, you're going to have a job. You can't be running around the country doing seminars. So the original dealership that I sold at before I even went to college, I talked to them, and they were like, well, yeah, you train all these dealerships. We'll have you run our dealerships. So that's kind of how I got sucked back into that. And then from there, it was just too many hours. And then I started my internet business basically from that point forward.
Wow, interesting. And were there any, do you think, now as you said, you got, that, and that's about 20 years right there. I mean, that's a lot of time. How do you feel, if so, that your experiences, bartending, selling cars, training dealerships, all that stuff, like, would you have done things any different way, or else how do you think that all kind of formed into where you are now, which is, J.R. Fisher, running a, you know, multi-million dollar internet business. Yeah, tell me about that.
I would not change a single thing. I'm remarried now. I met my wife at one of the dealerships we bought. And a quick funny story about that. She's considerably younger than me. She's 23 years younger than me. But at the time, she was in her late 20s.
Hey.
Yeah. And I was like 50, so we're right at 50. And I went into that dealership. It's a funny story. And my job was to go in there and get rid of all the dead wood. Just start firing people right and left. And that's what I was doing. I had my notepad. I was going around. I'm like, you're fired. We don't need you anymore. You're fired. We don't need you anymore.
Wow.
And I came to the reception desk, and Jessica was sitting there. Now, I didn't know that she actually worked in the office doing the DMV paperwork and all that. She was filling in for somebody at lunch. So I didn't bother to look up at her. And I started listing the things I wanted her to get done. And all I heard was this little tiny voice that said, "What makes you think I would do any of that for you?" And I looked up and I'm like, I think I'm going to like you. We've been together ever since. She has an internet business now. She helped me build Survival Cave Food. She has a YouTube channel called The Furry Family Coach, Jessica L. Fisher. She has all kinds of courses on dog training. She does animal rescue. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, meeting her like that. But at the time, you can't see a lot of these things that are going to affect you later on in life. And I think teaching people how to sell cars many years ago enables me to teach people how to sell stuff online and motivate them, show them what to do. If you do it right, you can get results. But every little step in life is leading you somewhere, and you may not be able to see it. You may not be able to. I couldn't see it, but it's going to help you on later on, as long as you don't quit. As long as you don't quit, that's the whole thing. As long as you don't quit. So I think it all helped me, and I wouldn't change a darn thing. Not a single thing. Both my kids are grown now. They're both stable. They're both, well off. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Now, was it just wondering how did having a, obviously, your first relationship broke down. How did your relationships affect, like, how well you did in business?
That's a good question. I would say.
Or did it?
Oh yeah. Oh no. It was very difficult. If anybody's ever been through a divorce, I'll tell you, it's not a fun thing at all. And that dragged on because it had to do with, custody and child support and all that kind of stuff. I guess I'm going to go back to the saying, if it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you stronger. At the time, I thought, well, I'm never going to be married again. I'm done with this. I don't want another woman. I'm not into any of that. I'm done. And I was very bitter at the time. And I think you go through these seasons of your life where you can't see the whole picture. And I couldn't at that time. And I wasn't looking to date anybody or go out with anybody, nothing. I was just taking care of my kids and, working. And then opportunities open, I wasn't supposed to go down and run that dealership that day. I was going to leave because I had already kind of started my business on the side, and I was just going to leave. And when they asked me to do that one thing that I didn't want to do, I did it and ended up meeting my wife. And, that was 10 years ago now. We're still together and we're doing great. So I think a lot of times you'll see things that you think are going to be detrimental to you, and they're not. They're really going to be helpful to you. It's like if you don't get that one path, and we talked in another interview, if your Facebook ads account gets shut down and you can never advertise on Facebook again, you're going to find an opportunity over at YouTube. You're going to find another opportunity that's probably far better. That's kind of like the universe saying, well, maybe you don't need that. Maybe you don't need that. And that's kind of how I look at all those things now. I couldn't then. It takes some maturity. But now anytime something goes bad, not too long ago, a few years ago, we had to go to my warehouse, and my wife was going to drive me to the airport, drop me off, let me go to the warehouse. I had to check on some things. And we got outside of our house, and I normally park in the street. She parks in the driveway, and we looked in the driveway, and her car was gone. And I said, we're going to have to take my car because yours got stolen. And she says, how do you know? I said, well, I'm no brain surgeon, but it's gone. And and she said, well, that's terrible. I said, no, it isn't. She said, what do you mean? No, it isn't. I said, something good is going to come out of this, something really good. And as it turned out, the car was stolen. It was retrieved, but it was pretty much totaled. They had drugs and guns in it, and all this kind of stuff. The police found it. It was crashed into other cars. But the insurance company paid her way more than what the car was worth. And we ended up getting a much nicer car, and it was all paid for. And I said, see there, it was all a good thing, man. Everything's good. And you got to look at it that way. Every problem.
How do you maintain, where does that come from? Because I feel like, especially nowadays, like that attitude that, it's going to be all right, like it's going to work out for the better, I don't feel like that's the attitude of the general population right now. I feel like the general population is like, or at least the news is pushing down our throats that nothing's going to work out. Everything's horrible. Everything's awful. You're walking over dead bodies trying to go to the market. I mean, and I'm wondering, how have you been able to maintain a positive attitude, and also does that help business? Because has that helped your business?
100%. And I tell you, it wasn't always my attitude. Okay. I used to fall into the trap of, oh my God, this happened to me, and that's a horrible place to be. It's a learned thing. And it's also a life experience thing where you could look back, like, the divorce was difficult and all that kind of stuff. But I can look back now and go, wow, but it got me to here, and if it got me to here, then I would have never gotten here otherwise, So now I look at stuff, and when it goes bad, it's like, it's just going to lead me to someplace else. And like right now with the election, and I'm not going to get into politics, but everybody's going, well, if my guy gets in, everything's going to be okay. My guy gets in there, my life is going to change. And your life won't change. Neither one of them are going to fix your life. It's just not going to happen. Let's say your guy gets in there and interest rates go way down. They go way down for everybody, not just you. If the economy gets screwed up, it gets screwed up for everybody. You're on an equal playing field with everybody, no matter what happens in the world, with the exception of what you do. What you get up and do every day will have a tremendous effect on your life. But those external forces, like what you're talking about, they just don't matter. They really, literally do not matter. When times are really bad, times are really bad, there's always some people that are doing really well, right? And when times are really great and everything's booming, there's always some people that are doing very poorly. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. It's what you do every single day. And I finally came to that realization. And guess what? More things work out now.
Yeah. And I can totally parrot exactly what you said, in the sense that, it's being able to be optimistic in the darkest of times. I've shared many stories on, my channel about this, but, it's not quitting until you turn your back. I've been through some really dark times in business, and, maintaining a positive attitude and being able to say, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and I'm just going to keep walking forward, has helped me out a lot too. So you said you learned it. You said you didn't always have that attitude and you learned it. Can you tell me a little bit more about how did you learn it?
I think, first off, listening to the right people, okay? Listen to positive people. If somebody's got a negative message, I don't care if it's about politics, if it's about life, if it's about health, whatever it is, you need to immediately shut that out. If you've got friends that are like that, you need to get rid of your friends. That's going to be something I'll get some bad comments about, but it's a fact. Mm-hmm. If you're hanging out with the wrong people, you are never going to be able to get ahead. And some of you say, well, I've got negative family members. I said, well, you don't have to spend all your time with them. They go, well, I'm married to them. I said, well, maybe you should get rid of them. Because my first wife was a very negative person. Mm-hmm. And it was an opportunity that I didn't see at the time. When we split up, it was an opportunity to find somebody really good. Now, I didn't even go looking for them. They were just there. But when you're faced with this stuff, and I do think it takes life experience, because you've got to be able to look back or listen to somebody who's been through it. There's the other way. You don't have to go through so much pain, and listen to them and find out that all that stuff that you thought was bad is really an incredible opportunity. You just can't see it yet. And I think that's the problem. If people can't see it right then, they're like, well, I don't see anything positive about this. That's because it's not there yet. It'll be there. Hang in there. It'll be there.
So tell me a little bit more about, this, because it sounds like there was a point, there's like a period where you kind of like, you transitioned from having, whatever, one circle of friends or acquaintances, and then you kind of started switching that over to some new folks. And tell me about that process. Like, was it rocky? Was there an explicit, like, hey, you're not my friend anymore? Like, no, I'm not going to the family reunion, or no, I'm, and also, like, how did you, like, get these new people in your life, and where did you find them, these new positive or successful motivators? Like, how did you bring those in, and how did you get the others out, and how long was that period? And was it difficult? Tell me a little bit about that, and how fast did you see the results of, like, your new peer group in your business success?
Well, it's kind of a gradual process.
Okay.
However, I take it back to dating. When people want to date, they always want to have the perfect mate. They want to have somebody who's attractive and in shape and intelligent and accomplished. And they're like, I just can't seem to find anybody like that. So I always say to them, well, look in the mirror. Are you that? Because you're going to attract whatever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're a negative person and you're not accomplishing anything, that's exactly what you're going to attract. If you change your life a little bit and you start accomplishing things, like, on a frequent basis, I get contacted by people who are like, oh man, I heard you did this, and I heard you did this. I'd like to talk to you about things. I wouldn't have attracted any of those people if I sat back and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
People love people who have accomplished things. So if you want to be around accomplished people, the first step is to accomplish something. Do something. Don't just sit back and go, I want to hang out with rich people. They don't want to hang out with you until you've done something, until you've proven that you're somebody worthy of them spending their time with. Because that process that you're going through, where you're saying, well, I want to hang out with successful people, they're saying the same thing. Okay?
What did you do? What'd you do?
I started doing stuff. I started accomplishing stuff.
Like what? Like what?
Well, actually, in the automotive industry, I did very well there. So, people that dealt in the automotive industry were like, I want to talk to this guy, because he
like
can
making sales and training people.
Yeah, because he gets results. I think people like results-oriented people. To give you an example, my wife has dog training, and she does dog rescue and all that. And we were contacted by a group, and they were doing a TV show with Cesar Millan. And Cesar Millan and his son were traveling around the country. It's called Cesar and Son. And she had done so much good in that area that he wanted to film a TV show at our house, which he did. Now, that wouldn't have happened if she hadn't have gone out and rescued animals, and we were doing all these things that meant something and helped all these. She has bins all over town at all these pet stores where we collect thousands and thousands of dollars worth of food, and we donate them to Dogs Without Borders, which is a Mexican rescue. And then they got in contact with that group, and then they got in contact with us, and we were on TV. So it's like, what are you putting out in the world that people are going to admire? If you're not putting something out in the world that people are going to admire, they ain't going to want to hang out with you. They're just not. But if you are, all of a sudden you're going to attract those people. It just happens. And I know that's kind of a touchy-feely thing, but it's true. I'm sure you're in the same situation. You're a successful guy, and I'm sure you have people contact you and say, hey, I want to hang out with you. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions. Yeah. Before you achieved all that, nobody was calling you, right? They didn't want to talk to John and sit somewhere, but now they do, because you've become who they're looking for. And I think that's it. And I think a lot of people don't want to hear that, because they're like, oh my God, I got to do work. Yeah. To find somebody that's in shape, guess what you got to be? In shape. That's what they're looking for, right? And if you're not in shape, you're going to find somebody who's not in shape, mentally, physically, financially. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I especially like both of your examples because, on one, you're obviously accomplishing something that's, making money, training people, they're making more money. But your wife's example, it's almost, she's making an impact, but it has nothing to do with money, but it's resulted in, her being on TV and all these other opportunities that come from that. So that, I mean, I think that's a cool illustration of that. It doesn't always have to be like, oh, you were like the number 1 salesperson for the month in your company. It's like, if you're just out there doing stuff, making an impact, that, the opportunities will hunt you down eventually. And now how the opportunity to start your survival cave food company, which is very successful in selling, canned foods and free, all these different types of foods that last 20 years or more. Did that opportunity come to you? Did you seek it out? And did you, and when you came across it, or it came across you or whatever, did you know how did you know to follow up on that? Because I'm sure all of us get, I don't know. Whenever I log on to Facebook, I get like 10 different business opportunities. It's like, start an e-commerce business, start a ad agency business, sell stuff on Amazon. Hey, short sell stocks and make millions, sell real estate. Right. How did, and this survival cave food company, how did that opportunity come? And we can't, but the other thing is, like, we can't take every opportunity. Like, I'd be going nuts if like every person who sent me a LinkedIn message said, hey, John, I hear you're a really good marketer. I'd love you to partner with us, or I'd love to advise my company, or hey, I'd love to pick your brain. I love that one.
Oh, that's like a good one. Yeah,
it's got this horrible, like, zombie-like connotation. Hey, I want to pick your brain. That's like,
right.
Stay away, bro. No. Right. How did that opportunity come about? How did you decide to even like follow through and spend time on it? And like, at what point did you know you were like, okay, this is the one?
Right. Well, I'd love to say that I knew exactly what I was doing, but I didn't. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was, I sat down one night and I looked at all the hours I was working. I was a single dad, and I'm like, I want to have some time. I want time and I want freedom. Time and freedom. So what's going to get me time and freedom? Time and freedom could come from having an internet business, because if I could sell stuff online, I wouldn't have to be somewhere. So that's what I reasoned. So I started selling cell phone cases. And I started selling cell phone cases because I did a quick search to find out what the #1 item sold on eBay was in 2009. And it was cell phone cases. So I said, well, everybody's got a cell phone case. That must
I'd imagine that would be a pretty saturated market, though. I remember a lot.
Well, it was, but I wasn't that smart. Okay. You got to factor in, I didn't know what I was doing. Sure. When you factor that, the margins were also incredibly small too. But once again, I didn't know what I was doing. So I started buying cell phone cases by the hundreds. And they only fit one kind of phone. Sorry, I'm shaking that desk. They only fit one kind of phone. So I would have to buy more cell phone cases by the hundreds, because there really wasn't a drop shipping thing back then. And I would sell a few of them, and then I would put the remainder in my walk-in closet. And then I would get some more because the phones had changed. And then I put the remainder in my walk-in closet. And pretty soon I couldn't walk into the walk-in closet because it was full of all these cell phone cases. And I reasoned that this was not the product for me because I was putting stuff in envelopes and packaging late at night, and I was making 50 cents or $1 for each package. So I started looking around a little bit, and I was like, well, camping goods look good. So I started buying camping supplies and little knives and gadgets and compasses and stoves and all that.
So sorry, you say camping goods look good. Like, was there like some like complex analysis that went into this? Like, I know there's like software programs that people pay thousands of dollars a year for, like Helium 6 and all this stuff. Like, were you using some fancy ass analysis? I mean, you have a finance background. Like, how deep did you go into like drill down into like you're like camping goods are good? Like what led to that decision? Was it some fancy spreadsheets, or what did you do to figure that out?
Once again, I'd like to say I'm intelligent, but I'm not. And I'll be really honest with you. When I started my business, I didn't know how to send emails very well. When I saw that there was a reply button one day, I'm like, holy crap, I don't have to rewrite this whole email. I was like floored. I'm like, I've discovered something. There's a reply button. I didn't know that existed. On top of that, I can't type. And when I say I can't type, I mean, to this day, I cannot type. So as far as camping goods, I would look and find some items that had sold a bunch on eBay, and I'm like, I'll go buy that item then. I did no kind of in-depth research. I didn't know how to do it.
Wait, what? So you just were like, oh, there's a bunch of reviews or something?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of those are sold and people seem to like it, and then I'd try to find who manufactured it, and I would just buy some of that.
So you went to school for finance, but there was no fancy spreadsheets or anything. It was just hey, those look like, it looks like those are selling.
Right.
You know, let me try it out. Okay, right. Cool.
I've been struggling to pay my bills, and now I have an internet business, and within 2 days I got my first sale.
It's been amazing in my life because John's program has actually helped me make an additional $2 million that changed my life.
Hi, John. I wanted to take a quick moment to give you a quick testimonial. Yesterday, I made my first online affiliate commission. I'm absolutely, totally excited. And for the first time, I really see that, I have a future in this and I have someone who has my back. So again, John, just thank you so much for your time to just help everybody in the group and just to give us, nothing but value week after week after week. Again, thank you so much.